Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole, honored as always to be with you today for this moment when we pause, when we reflect, when we think about how we move through space, how we live in this world, what matters to us for real. You know, I was taught many, many years ago that the best way to start your day is in reflection, so that you take that pause to be with yourself, to check in with you, to see how are you doing for real. Where is your spirit? How are you prepared to move forth in your day? And even though I know it, sometimes we're so busy that we don't remember to just take a breath, be still, and contemplate, how do I want to move forward? And how do I want to move through space today? And what is that going to mean? And we know that it is important to pay attention to just how we live, but often we're just so busy, so tired, so something, that we don't give ourselves the space to fully collect ourselves. And I had a wonderful experience this past week at a women's conference. There were 400 women gathered in Los Angeles, women who work in the communications industry in one way or another. It was a conference called ColorCom, and it is something focused on women of color in the communications field. So who was there? African American women, Caribbean women, Latinas, Asian Americans. And when I say from all different parts of those diasporas, most from the United States, all working in one way or another in spaces that are here, but really diverse. And it was just a fascinating and inspiring experience to be in the company of so many different women. They were ranging in age. I think we were told that they were 22 to 69. So a really broad range of age, people from all over the country and feathering out to all over the world. So there was one panel that struck me, many, but there was one that struck me that I wanted to share with you today, and it was about creating legacy. There was a moderator and two other women who are all power brokers, who have worked for many years in their different careers, all different, building the brand of who they are, building in alignment the brands wherever they were working. And they brought to this conversation their understanding of what legacy is. And I thought it would be really interesting for us to explore, what is your legacy? What does legacy mean to you? Is it something you've ever even thought about? Have you thought about the impact that you have on those surrounding you today and potentially into the future? Is it something that you consider at all? Is it something that's worthy of consideration? Do you put yourself in the belief system that what you do matters enough that when you're gone, it will continue to matter? And I hope that you do. It doesn't matter what you do or so-called who you are. Each of us is important. Each of us is valuable. And what we do and say matters a lot, though we don't always think about that. We don't always take a pause and say, what impact am I having on those in my world and on those who may come behind me? And so I wanted us to explore this today because legacy counts. And whatever your legacy is, it is going to be there, whether you decide you're going to have a legacy or not. This is the part that is fundamentally fascinating to me, that you can move through life living, being, pushing ahead, and not contemplate what impact you have, but it doesn't mean that you don't have one. So a really lovely thing happened for me during this conference. I moderated a panel, and it was about wellness, so I should share that. It was with Bevy Smith, whom I love and adore and have known for many, many years, and Jeannie Mai, who many of you may know. She was on The Real and is quite a celebrity in the world of communication. She's a Vietnamese woman, Bevy Smith, an African-American woman. And we were talking about wellness and how we tend to ourselves in order to be able to share with others. And one of the things that we touched upon in the world in which we live right now, social media is everything. Engaging in the way that we are right now through digital communication is a very important part of connectivity today. And for people who are constantly feeding content into whatever their digital sources are, there comes the question, what messages are we sending about ourselves? What messages are we sending about what life is, what life means, what our life means, what our engagement means to others? What does it all mean? So I asked this question of the panel, especially for people who have huge social media presence, and whenever you are at a known point, known whatever the community is in which you're known, people hold you to a high standard, and they often put you on a pedestal and believe that your life is perfect. And what we tend to show on social media are these images of ourselves that are joyful, that are triumphant, that are showing this incredible world. And I do the same thing. I choose joy every day. So the posts that I make are positive. Is that the whole story? Is that what we want to share? Is that what we want people to think? Is that what we want to inspire people with? To me, choosing joy and sharing joy is important. And how do we show the whole of who we are? So I remember Bevy saying that really it's about authenticity. And we use that word a lot. We throw it around a lot. But what does authenticity mean to you? If you are being your authentic self, you're not necessarily sharing every single thing about your life, but you're sharing enough for people to see you, to get a sense of who you are, how you work through challenges, how you engage others, how you tap into joy or whatever it is that is important for you. What is the legacy that you're building when you put images of yourself out there? I think this is something for all of us to think about. What impact do we have, and how does it reflect when we are pouring images and words out into the universe about who we are? What impact does that have? What legacy does that leave? So as I was walking about going from place to place at this conference, and there was a session about something every hour on the hour. It was action-packed, and you really got to fill your cup. There were a number of young women who passed me, and I've been in this game for a long, long time, and it was a lovely experience. Oh, Miss Cole, thank you for what you do. I really appreciate your work here, there, or wherever, different stages in my career, there were people who acknowledged the contributions that they felt I had made. Then I engaged lots of people there. And as I said, I moderated a panel, and there were several people, independent of each other, who said the same thing to me. And they said, Miss Cole, I really love your spirit. Well, for me, you couldn't ask for a greater compliment, because that is what I work to cultivate. That's part of what we do here on Inspiration, to nurture the spirit, to cultivate the spirit, to share goodness, greatness, love with each other, to connect in that way. And so for that to be acknowledged by people I do not know, for folks to walk up to me and say that, it was a beautiful thing. Now, folks calling me Miss Cole made me feel a little bit very grown, but it was a sign of reverence and respect, and I appreciate that. What do people say about you? What do people think about you? What are the messages that you put out into the world about yourself? That is what your legacy is. That's what your brand is. We use the word brand a lot. It's the same sense. What do you represent? And what you represent, I'm here to tell you, whether you are conscious of it or not, it's out there. When people observe you, when they listen to you, when they see you interact with others, in those moments when you think no one is watching, they're watching. They've always been watching, but now in this environment where we live, where somebody's camera is always on, you better believe not only are they watching, but they may be sharing it with someone else. And guess what? That shouldn't even matter, because if you are being authentically you, if you are nurturing your spirit, what makes you you, and cultivating that and offering that to the universe and being intentional about it, then hopefully who you are in your awareness is who you present yourself to be to others, and it gets reflected back to you. So that's what happened when these women came up to me and said, "Oh, Miss Cole, I love your spirit." You can't pay for that. Well, the way you pay for it is by being your authentic self, is by nurturing that and offering it to the world consistently so that it boomerangs back to you. Now, what happens if what's boomeranging back to you is, where did that come from? What is that energy? Something you don't like or don't want, or some negativity that's coming. We often say, well, that's so and so's fault. That's somebody else did that thing, whatever that thing is. I want to tell you that the energy that comes at you, generally speaking, is something that you have drawn to you. And it's usually something that you're putting out. So if a lot of negativity is coming at you, it must mean that you are exuding negativity. We don't ever want to think that that could be true about us, but it can. And this is why being conscious about what we think, what we say, and what we do is so important. As I was looking for inspiration to share with you who might have a powerful quote about this, I found something from our beloved Maya Angelou. And I want to share with you what she has to say about legacy. And hello to all of you who are joining right now. What she says is, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. Okay, guess what? You're making a mark on the world that can't be erased anyway, but be conscious about it. If you are going to live, leave a legacy. Think about it in that way. You are not just living. You're not just here. It's not just, I'm here today, whatever. If you're going to live, leave a legacy, have an impact on your world, your family, your community, your job, your environment, the world. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. And there's more to her quote I want to share with you right now, which is, she says, I want to leave people better than I found them. to leave a mark, not a scar, to deposit hope and faith and some seeds of joy. Seeds of joy. Seeds of joy. Seeds can be watered and grow into flowers and plants and trees. Life is about loving God and loving people. I want to leave a legacy of love. Now, for those of you who know anything about Maya Angelou, you know that is exactly what she did. And we continue to study her words like we are doing right now. Her poetry, she was National Poet Emeritus, I think, during, she spoke at President Clinton's inauguration, I believe. She says, if you're going to leave a legacy, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. And I'm just going to read you the rest of this right now. She says, I want to leave people better than I found them. Don't you? To leave a mark, not a scar. To deposit hope and faith and some seeds of joy. Life is about loving God and loving people. I want to leave a legacy of love. Okay, this notion of leaving a mark, not a scar, this is so important. You know, I often say endings are more important than beginnings because when we walk away from something, we're usually done. We may be frustrated, we're over it, we've outgrown it, we don't want it anymore. There's a sense of rejection when we walk away from something. And so very often when people walk away from people, situations, etc., they do so without thinking, without contemplating what happens when they leave. You know, when I am done, it could be, let's make it real simple. When I was leaving this conference, as others were leaving, how did you depart? Some people were rushing. I got to get to the airport. You know, that energy of rushing was very apparent for some. Some people were moving at a leisurely clip. Some people I looked at and you could see there was a solemnity in their faces and spirit. I think because they're walking away from this incredible hug of energy out into what? So there was a lot of different energy. For me, my attitude and energy, I believe, were in alignment. It was gratitude. I was so grateful that I had an opportunity to have an impact by moderating a panel and being very intentional about drawing out the goodness from the panelists, about being present in the space of so many women who are building their lives and careers and looking to connect with each other. We all connected with each other. I felt renewed by being in their presence and wanted to make sure I brought that energy forward as I left, which includes sharing it with you right now. I walked with gratitude, and that's how I looked at people as we were leaving and hugged or gave that glance of a hug. How do you end things? If you are walking away from a job, how do you do that? If I talked to a few people who recently who've had tough situations in their work and have found it difficult to be positive because there's just so much drama. And a couple of people who recently left their jobs. And one man in particular who had a really bad run-in with people on his job. And I asked him, how did you leave it? Because he felt a bit broken. And I explained, I'm asking from this context that I think endings are more important than beginnings for a lot of reasons. A, how do you leave that relationship with those people? B, depending upon how you leave a situation determines what happens next. You know, what are the reverberations? Like if you're mad, angry, hurt, and you you put that energy out there, does that energy continue to waft after you and dirty the waters around you? Even though you're gone, is it gone? And he said to me, you know what? I sat for I did all I said was goodbye at first. He had quit his job because of some things that had happened. And then he wrote a letter to leadership explaining why he had left and thanking them for the opportunity to work there and keeping it moving. It was detailed in the most positive and constructive way as he could make it. It was honest, but it wasn't reactionary. I thought that was incredible because it can be very, very difficult to find an uplifted way to engage a situation when you feel broken, when you feel hurt. And I want to tell all of you for your legacy, how you end things is important. How you manage in situations that are tender. Because again, we could be here together and share the big hug and just feel really great about everything. But when you feel great, when your life is going well, you don't necessarily need this engagement that we have at Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm glad you're here. But when we really need it is when we feel tender, when we feel like it's hard to be kind to ourselves or others, when we feel like we have every right to lash out. And when Maya Angelou said, make a mark, not a scar, hello? That's huge. And Fallon, my producer, if you can, would you put the whole quote up? I think you were right. We should show the whole quote. I'd like for everybody to see the whole thing. If you can add it in and you just put it up when you have it. This notion of make a mark, not a scar. That is deep. It can be both subtle and really stark. What do you do? How do you how do you interact with yourself and others when times are tender? That's the times we're talking about. That's when Dreamleapers Inspiration comes in and perhaps can rescue you. So, see, I want to leave people better than I find them, to leave a mark, not a scar, to deposit hope, love, faith, and seeds of joy. Life is about loving God and loving people. I want to leave a legacy of love. Yeah. Life is about loving God and loving people. And by the way, it doesn't matter what your faith tradition is. I'm going to guess if you've connected to me that you believe that there's a higher power. You believe that there's something greater than you. You may not be able to see it tangibly, but you see it in things that happen every single day. You see it in those miraculous moments when someone appears just when you need this kind of help or this door to be open. You may not have even realized the door was there, but boom, somebody appears and you're like, yes, thank you. That's what I need. To me, that's God talking. That's God welcoming us into the incredible fold of goodness that makes this life happen, makes it possible. So this notion of loving God and loving people, it's a choice. Now let's think about it. How many times have you been in situations where you weren't feeling so great, somebody else wasn't feeling so great, and they just jump in and start complaining and talking about people and ridiculing others? How many times have you done that? How many times have you talked about someone at their expense, ridiculed someone at their expense, belittled someone because you could? You don't have to tell me, tell yourself. How many times have you not been kind? How many times have you not been uplifting? How many times have you made a scar, a slash, when what you could have done is to uplift a person, a situation, the moment? How many times have you allowed something to come out of your mouth that was just not useful, that was scarring? All of us have done it. And the powerful and frightening thing about this is you can't take it back. You can apologize, yes, But there are things that have been said that people say and do that hurt to the core, and you never forget. I mean, I've talked about this often. There are things that have occurred in my life when I was a child I've never forgotten. I was hurt by them for decades. Now I'm good, but decades because of some words and actions that were unconscious, but unconscious actions matter and they can create scars that live forever. This is not what we want to do. We want to make a mark, an uplifting mark. We want to make a conscious choice to be positive, to see the good in others and in ourselves, to water the seeds of goodness. Maya Angelou talks about watering those seeds, watering the seeds and allowing the plants to grow rather than stomping all over them. It is easy to make a cutting remark. It is easy to cut your eyes, to roll your eyes, to close yourself to an opportunity, a person, an experience. It's easy to do that. One of the panels that I attended about legacy, I was beginning to tell you this. There were 3 women on the panel, and one of them so impressed me. Her name is Renata Simril. I had not seen her before, but she's a strikingly beautiful woman, petite woman with a sense of power that's much, much larger than her physical self. And she runs a not-for-profit organization that celebrates the 84 Olympics and the many great athletes who are part of that. And what they do is to foster sportsmanship among youth in LA. And what she does was not what she talked about when asked about legacy on this panel. She said, for her, as a person who came from very meager beginnings and who has built an incredible career for herself, her legacy to her is leadership and service. Leadership and service. And what she explained is, as she looks through the lens of leadership and service for everything that she does and everything she has done through her life, those 2 things, leadership and service, have become the lens and the focus. So she doesn't choose things to do that don't fall into that space. Now, that's broad enough that it could be a lot of things. Service is what keeps her connected to children, to help uplift them as she was uplifted when she was a child. I listened to this woman. When we see people on stage, we often think, oh, that person has it all together. That person is fabulous. That person isn't struggling. I mean, our brains somehow tell us that the person on the platform, the person with the microphone, is better than we are. And I've learned, because I've often been the person on stage with the microphone, just like I am now, to say we are all equal. We are all tender at times. We all need love and upliftment. As I listened to Renata talk about her choices, it was something I wanted to share with you, because every choice that we make, whether it is to move into a situation or leave a situation, should be a conscious choice, should be based on our values, should be based on who we are and who we want to be, and the legacy that we are building that represents who we are for this moment and for future generations. What are people going to believe and say about you when you're no longer in the room, when you're no longer on the planet? What will that be? And have you thought about it? Please think about it. Please think about your impact on your world and those around you. What do you want that to be? And if you're conscious about it and you establish, this is what I stand for, these are the things that matter to me, about me, this is what I want people to know about me, This is what I want to give to the world. These are the seeds that I want to plant. And not only do I want to water them, I want other people to water them too because they value that. If you live like that, you will make choices that are in alignment with what you believe, with the seeds you have planted. You will make a mark, not a scar. You will live love. You will be able to do that if you are conscious of it on a daily basis. I encourage every one of you to do that. As you put images of yourself out there in the world, be conscious of what they are. Are they telling the truth about you? Are they uplifting? Are they honest? Are they helpful? Do they put a smile on other people's faces? Are they authentic? Are they inclusive? How are you moving through this world? Are you paying attention? Because you are building a legacy that tells people who you are, that is going to last, whether you want it to or not. So be intentional. Be intentional and enjoy it. And just as those sisters said to me, I love your spirit, I want everyone to love your spirit. And in order for that to happen, you have to be fully present and aware of who you are and what you're offering to the world. So I hope this has helped you to tap into you. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.